Getting set for another chilly night ahead, but milder temperatures ahead of a strong cold front. We'll track what that means for the late week forecast.
Ahead at 4, a live report on new leads in the case of a Central Kentucky woman who disappeared 24 years ago. And will lawmakers be able to reach a compromise on the state's budget? With only days left until the end of the legislative session, lawmakers are finally starting to make some compromises.
This is WKYT News at 4.
Welcome to WKYT News at 4. I'm Amber Philpott. Jennifer has the day off. We have a fairly nice but cool day taking shape across the region. Take a look. This is a live picture now of downtown Lexington. But this nice weather will soon give way to some thunderstorms, and those storms are ahead of a cold blast to start the month of April. Let's check in now with Chief Meteorologist Chris Bailey. Who cares about the end of the week? Let's talk about those blue skies now.
Exactly right. I mean, it is picture perfect out there. Sure, you step outside, it's a little chilly, but it is still March after all. That blue sky over top of downtown Lexington. Hey, we're seeing that on the east side of town as well. Hamburg Pavilion. Everything continues to green up right on cue. 57 degrees in Lexington. Humidity's way down 39%. Winds are coming at us right now at 12 miles an hour out of the east and the northeast. Most areas, central and eastern Kentucky, mid to upper 50s. 60 plus, though, showing up just to our west into parts of the Bowling Green and Louisville area. Warmest spot in eastern Kentucky, far southeastern corner of the state. Defender Radar Network, nothing showing up locally. Let's bounce it out a little bit, see if we can find anything threatening our skies at least tonight or tomorrow, and we really can. Some high clouds out to the west of us. Overall, though, this is a nice evening taking shape. Soon as the sun sets with that dry air, chilly temperatures ensue. We'll be into the low 40s by around 11 o'clock or so. Mainly clear skies. A little touch of frost tomorrow morning. Strong cold front on the way for Thursday with thunderstorms and the possibility of some heavier rains. Amber touched on that possibility for cold into the early part of April. We've got that in the 7-day forecast when I come back in 15 minutes.
All right, we'll see you then, Chris. Thank you. Major developments this afternoon in a more than 20-year-old cold case out of central Kentucky. Federal investigators served a search warrant earlier today at a home on the Boyle-Lincoln County line in connection to the disappearance of Anna Lee Manning. This afternoon, they started digging outside that home. Our Sean Moody is live with more on the developing new leads in this case. It's our top story at 4. Sean?
Hey there, Amber. Federal and local law enforcement officers have been out here since this morning. Right now, you can see over my shoulder, they are on a front-end loader in the yard of this property here along Spring Valley Road. For the past few hours, we've seen them digging around the property and using heavy machinery to pull a camper and a shed out from that yard. Boyle County Sheriff Marty Elliott told us this is a search in connection with the Anna Lee Manning case that went cold 24 years ago. Investigators said Manning went missing back in 1992 in nearby Junction City. Earlier this year, a Boyle County Sheriff's deputy said he decided to reopen the case after reading the original file. We don't know what led investigators to this property today, but they've been out here for hours now with heavy machinery and some smaller tools digging through the yard. They haven't said what it is they're looking for today or whether or not they found anything. We also don't know much about the property investigators are searching right now, but a newspaper article in the Danville Advocate Messenger said that Anna Manning's husband, Anthony, had a listed address along this road back in 1992. We'll, of course, keep you updated as things develop out here live in Boyle County. Live in Boyle County, Sean Moody, WKYT.
Sean, thank you. Investigators said Anna Manning was last seen in front of a jewelry shop on 3rd Street in Junction City. With just days left until the end of the 2016 General Assembly, some Kentucky lawmakers question whether they'll be able to agree on a state budget before their deadline. And they're running out of time. An agreement must be reached in 2 weeks or a special session will need to be called. Mark Barber has the latest from Frankfort.
Lawmakers that would not budge on the budget are now starting to make some concessions. They say they realize they need to work fast to reach a compromise because there are only 2 days left until the end of the legislative session. The Senate and the House have been deadlocked in a disagreement over the state spending plan for the next 2 years. The Republican-led Senate wants to keep Bevin's proposed budget cuts, while the Democrat-controlled House is trying to scrap them. The House says they are willing to compromise by backing off their position that would take money away from the governor's proposal to put money into the state's retirement fund and the permanent fund. However, the House says they still will not allow the proposed cuts for education. The Senate maintains that the cuts are necessary because the state is saddled with billions in pension debt. As lawmakers continue to butt heads over the cuts, the battle lines for the budget have been drawn around House Speaker Greg Stumbo and the governor.
Getting reelected should not be the #1 driver behind decisions that are made in this town. They shouldn't be. We were sent here to do the will of the people. We were sent here in this session specifically to pass a budget.
You know, if he quit doing silly videos and pick up the telephone and call and try to work something out, it might be more productive.
Bevin says he will not give up his veto power, and he does not want to call a costly special session. With only 2 days left until the end of the legislative session, some lawmakers are wondering whether they will come to an agreement on the budget before their April 15th deadline. In Frankfort, Mark Barber, WKYT.
While GOP leaders haven't specified what concessions they are willing to make, the governor says everything is on the table. Sipping cocktails could become part of the experience at Bourbon distilleries. The Kentucky House has passed a bill that would allow distilleries in wet cities or counties to offer by-the-drink sales and offer larger amounts of free samples. The bill had already passed the Senate, but the House made some changes, so it must now go back to the Senate for approval before being signed into law. 2 people managed to escape a massive house fire early this morning. It started just before 3 on Hawthorne Drive near Lone Oak Golf Course in Nicholasville. The fire was so intense, at one point firefighters had to get out of the home fearing it would collapse. One of the people inside talked to a neighbor shortly after escaping the fire.
She was watching a movie, and all of a sudden her nephew came out of the bedroom apparently and said, "I think you left the oven on or the stove on," and she went to check, and everything was fine. And so the next thing that they knew was that everything was engulfed in smoke and flames, and they just ran out as fast as they could and dialed 911.
Investigators are still trying to figure out how that fire started. We're working on a number of other stories for you on WKYT starting at 4:30. Sam Dick joins us now from the newsroom with a look at some of the news in progress. Hello, Sam.
Good afternoon, Amber. 2 guards who were in charge of transporting inmates were fired after 2 men escaped from a transport van in southern Kentucky. And one of those inmates is still on the run. State police say that Ledford Hamilton and Ronald Gray were being moved from the Knox County Jail to the Leslie County Jail when they jumped out of an unsecured door in Clay County. Hamilton was arrested a short time later, but police say Gray of Barberville is still on the run. We'll have an update on that situation on WKYT News coming up at 5. A Georgetown restaurant plans to donate 100% of today's proceeds to a former employee facing a devastating diagnosis. 2 weeks ago, 26-year-old Lauren Johnson learned she has 2 rare cancers and only has 3 to 6 months to live. Johnson used to work at the Giovanni's Pizza in Georgetown. When the restaurant learned what happened, the owner jumped into action to make sure that Johnson can enjoy the time she has left with her husband and their 20-month-old daughter.
She needs help. Giovanni. And if the help that I can give is the money that she needs for her and her family to be comfortable, so her husband can stay at home and take care of her and their beautiful baby girl, and I have the means to do that, and that's what I'll do. That's what we'll do.
Johnson is now a social worker who spent much of her career working with homeless children. The achievements of some Kentucky Vietnam veterans are on display today. They are recognized during an event at Camp Nelson National Cemetery. Each Vietnam veteran was presented with a pin during a special ceremony to thank them for their service. 4 years ago, the president declared March 29th as Vietnam Veterans Day. This year marks the 50th anniversary of that war. We'll have more from Camp Nelson ahead on WKYT News at 4:30. That's a look at some of the news in progress. Amber, back to you.
Sam, thank you. Now to some stories making headlines across the nation at 4. As the Republicans prepare to face Wisconsin voters in tonight's town hall, the frontrunner's campaign manager is the one taking center stage. Donald Trump's right-hand man turned himself into police this morning and is now due back in court in May. Diane Gallagher explains the story behind the charges.
Trouble on the trail for Donald Trump. The Republican frontrunner's campaign manager, Lewandowski, charged with the simple battery of now former Breitbart reporter Michelle Fields. This here is surveillance video just released by police in Jupiter, Florida, of what happened between Fields and Lewandowski back on March 8th. A Trump spokesperson, though, confirmed these charges will not affect Lewandowski's position with the campaign.
Lewandowski is going to beat this. He will plead not guilty, and we'll just have to let this process play out.
2 days after the incident, Fields tweeted a photo of bruises on her arm to Trump and Lewandowski, with Lewandowski sending tweets calling her delusional, claiming he never touched her. Now, the police report does list bruises on the arm as evidence, as well as a recording captured on Fields' phone during the alleged incident.
I can't believe he just did that. That's so hard. Oh my, was that Corey?
Yeah. This afternoon, Trump called his campaign manager a decent man and told his Twitter followers to, quote, look at the tape. The Republican frontrunner has publicly doubted Fields in the past.
When we left, I spoke to them. Nothing happened. This was, in my opinion, made up.
Now, all of this comes as the billionaire continues to struggle when it comes to women. A CNN ORC poll finding that nearly 3 in 4 registered women voters hold an unfavorable view of Trump. Opponents were quick to link Trump to the charges. The case at Camp saying campaigns reflect the values of candidates.
And this is the consequence of the culture of the Trump campaign.
In Washington, I'm Diane Gallagher.
All 3 Republicans will face Wisconsin voters in that town hall tonight. A big change could be coming to Apple's next iPhone, wireless charging. That begins today's Money Watch. Users could potentially rest their phone on a charging pad to power up instead of lugging around a charging cord. The speculation comes less than a week after Apple released its smaller iPhone SE. There may be changes ahead for Instagram, but many fans of the photo-sharing social network are not happy about it. The company announced earlier this month that it wanted to change the look of users' news feeds. It would arrange photos according to what they think is most interesting to the user. That's instead of the current reverse chronological feed. Backlash from users has caused them to delay the changes. They're still testing the new feature with a small group of users. If your March Madness bracket is a bust, you can always bet on the presidential election. Political wagering websites are already making 2 predictions. 1, that Donald Trump and Hillary Clinton will be the nominees, and 2, that Clinton will win the general election. The oldest prediction site, run by the University of Iowa since 1988, calls Clinton the favorite by a 67 to 33% margin. It is time now for Better Living, health, education, and consumer news that impacts your life. New research connects premature births to air pollution. Those births are costing more than $4 billion a year in the U.S. That's according to researchers at NYU Medical Center, who say pollution is triggering toxic chemicals in the blood, contributing to thousands of premature births, causing prolonged hospital stays, long-term medication, and lost productivity. At least 4 people in one family have come down with salmonella after a nationwide recall of pistachios. As Ashley Michaels reports, this family says they'll now pay more attention to food recalls.
If you've had them, you know you can't just have one.
I had a couple handfuls of pistachios, actually, the ones that come in the Black Brand, Wonderful Brand pistachios.
Not a wonderful idea, though.
Delicious, but then a couple days later, I started feeling a little bit sick to my stomach.
So sick?
Well, I was waking up, rolling around, moaning, groaning.
Mike Larson ended up in the hospital.
He literally looked like he was dying.
He and his girlfriend couldn't figure out why.
I thought it was actually food poisoning. I was like, oh, maybe I didn't cook the chicken correctly, you know?
And then she goes, actually, have you had any pistachios lately? And I was like, yeah.
It turns out the pistachios Mike ate a few days earlier were contaminated with salmonella, a type of bacteria that causes painful cramps, stomach sickness, and can be deadly.
I don't know if you've ever had food poisoning, but it's painful, and this was about 10 times worse.
Wonderful Brand recalled thousands of bags on March 9th after a nationwide outbreak traced back to its farm in California. So far, 11 people in 9 states have gotten sick, and that's not counting the 4 people in Mike's family who've now tested positive.
You never think just a few nuts. I eat pistachios and peanuts and almonds all the time and never think twice of it.
He says now when he sees a food recall, he'll pay a little more attention.
Not something that you research, not something you look into, but maybe something that we want to glance at every once a month or so, because it's not fun.
Campbell Soup says it will stop using the chemical known as BPA to line its cans by the middle of next year. Campbell says it wants to reassure customers who are worried the substance may harm their health and increase their risk of cancer, but the FDA says it's safe at its current level. Now,